Excel Saga, the only anime that dedicates the beginning of every episode to making fun of the mangaka for giving the studio the rights to adapt the series however they want. I'm not joking. Sometimes they even kill him because why not? I wonder if he regrets signing away everything now that he's seen his own original character slash him to death. Excel Saga follows the titular heroine, Excel, with all her hyperactive, spunky, and even psychopathic antics, as well as her junior agent Hyatt, or Hotchan, who can't help but die multiple times per episode, and the leader of their secret organization across that seeks to take over first the city and then the world, Il Palazzo, whom Excel can't help but crush on every scene they have together. In opposition to them is the city's defense force who happen to live next door, Kabapu, who oversees them, and a lolicon mad scientist with a penchant for making robots, doing what Elon Musk can't. And we can't forget Nabeshin. The director made himself his own character in the anime, and it's not the only time he's done that either. You don't see that nowadays, do you? There's also our good friend Pedro, but we can get into that later.
I, Koshi Rito, hereby give my permission to make the Excel Saga anime into a B-movie action flick.
As mentioned, each episode from 1 to 26 starts with the author of the manga, Koshi Rikudo, giving the rights away to Studio JC staff to adapt it however they want, with the thematic genre switching between episodes, one being a sports anime for example, while another is detective themed. As for the differences between the anime and the manga, it would only be a slight exaggeration to call it night and day. They explore alternative storylines, and the anime adds original characters as well as repurposing insignificant characters, and makes completely new subplots for most episodes while incorporating the basic story of the manga. There wasn't a ton of seriousness in the original manga, but even still the anime breaks up such moments. For example, at one point in the manga, Il Palazzo goes on a rant about Christmas and Christianity, while in the anime Excel's hyperactiveness and the emphasized whimsical personality of Il Palazzo make that impossible. The original manga is an action comedy already, but the anime takes that idea to new and inconceivable heights.
Is this for real?
Next comes the opening, which stands out from other anime for more than just being an absolute banger. Yes, Hyatt is coughing up blood on the microphone. Yes, they're singing inside the men's bath for some reason. Yes, they're sprinting through a photorealistic city. It just works and won't even seem odd after watching a few episodes. It means the brainwashing is working. It's about love, loyalty, and slipping on banana peels. Something like that. From that point onwards, the bulk of the episode begins, usually with Agent Excel and Hyatt receiving their next mission from Il Palazzo, whom is never pleased with Excel yet dotes on Hyatt. Talk about workplace discrimination. They set off on their mission, or get involved in the usual shenanigans. Meanwhile, there are other plotlines that will typically work their way into the main story of the episode. We get to watch Pedro, the anime original foreign immigrant worker who brags about his son and sexy wife, as he becomes plunged into man-made horrors beyond comprehension, because Excel caused a small workplace accident. The things he endures to return home and banish the usurper Gomez are suffering that would cause anyone else to break, which would probably happen to him if not for the will of the universe itself being a side hustle, and forcing him to continue his Sisyphean journey. Although rather than Sisyphus, I'd say his story mirrors that of Odysseus, funny enough. The absurdity of what he goes through every time he's on screen makes for some of the funniest moments of the anime. It makes me glad that the manga, that doesn't always hit the comedic funny bone, got the ridiculous adaptation that it did. For other plotlines in an average episode, there's the city's municipal defense force, composed of civil servants, truly the backbone of society, serving under Kabapu, who is a shadow governor of sorts, with implied history with Il Palazzo, as they train and repel evil in the form of anime original fluffy aliens and a cross. There's also Nabeshin, as the director Shinichi Watanabe places himself in the role of an overpowered badass, often mimicking the heroes of popular films, who has his own battles and villains to fight, as well as retaining his role of overseeing the production of the anime. Some episodes get Menshi, the emergency food supply dog focused segments, with her being the heroine of one episode entirely. As the episode progresses, these various plots intertwine to arrive at a particularly chaotic conclusion that leaves Excel unsuccessful on yet another mission. Or a crosswinds and the city is destroyed and restored somehow. Nothing really surprises me after having seen the final episode, which gets its own segment in the video. Loose ends tied or not, the end of an episode means hearing the tragic howls of Menshi, followed by, rather than a preview of the next episode as you might expect, Excel, in more of a hurry to spew words than usual, breaks the fourth wall to give the viewer information loosely tied to what just happened, or hints at what's to come. That's how an episode usually goes, and I realize that I've been using such qualifiers a lot because it feels like nothing is ever the same in this chaotic masterpiece. Yet it does have an overarching story, in spite of how some might claim that it's simply stupid and nonsensical, which isn't entirely untrue either. I merely dislike how a lot of people will dismiss a story, whether anime or another format, as not making any sense, because their small brains can follow basic plot structures if told in a non-traditional way. The story begins by introducing Excel and all her eccentric quirks, work ethic, and morals as she struggles to fulfill Il Palazzo's wishes. Oh, and Pedro dies. Subsequently, in episode 2, we are introduced to the jobless trio of idiots living next door who will eventually become a crucial part of the city's defense force. That episode ends with the awakening of Hyatt as Excel endures both hunger and a Viet Cong-style prison camp. Hyatt searches for her in between fits of death. After Nabashin gallantly takes out the war camp Rambo style, Excel is able to escape and return to the city where she finally meets her fellow agent Hyatt, which contrasts with how Pedro immediately afterward is cucked by his former friend Gomez. More of Il Palazzo's character and his crush on Hyatt is revealed while he plays a handheld dating sim mirroring reality, and we can see that there is more to him than his serious persona. The deadbeat neighbor Watanabe, meanwhile, is lucky enough to have a date with Hyatt after having helped her earlier, where he boasts about working for the government, a lie that will manifest as truth later and foreshadows what is to come.
A girl!
While Pedro continues to be cooked, both Excel and Hyatt died tragically from cutting the wrong wire on a bomb before the Great Will of the Macrocosm steps in to reset the world for them. In the next episode, the two agents are sent out on another mission attempting to compromise the city's government while they are threatened by imminent replacement. During this mission, Dr. Kabapu is introduced as holding a mysterious position within the government, powerful enough to decide the next mayor, and he is determined to protect the city at all costs. That's fitting because afterward, the new city defense force is formed with the addition of the cold, cruel, yet sensible beauty Misaki. They begin their training under Kabapu using new uniforms and a futuristic weapon that manages to accidentally thwart Excel's efforts on her mission. I consider that, episode 6, as the end of the beginning segment of the series, which focuses on the introduction of characters, the city, and the two main factions fighting to control it. From this point onwards, the city defense force is an incompetent, yet at the same time capable hazard to the plans of Across. They launch an investigation into the sewers that leads to the secret organization's underground base, although they encounter aliens and the traps prepared by Il Palazzo on the way, ultimately ending in the flooding of the city. Like nothing happened, Excel and Hyde continue to starve in their house until an 8-year-old from around the neighborhood, Cosette, arrives and the three head to the pool. As it turns out, Cosette is an assassin, although her mommy issues get in the way of her accomplishing her task. The macrocosm takes pity on her and restores her mother's life and their relationship, meaning that Cosette becomes irrelevant and has zero screen time until the final episode where nothing is sacred. Agents Excel and Hyatt continue to try to live up to Il Palazzo's expectations, and Menchie the dog as well stars in her very own anime end story arc. One such filler mission has Excel and Hyatt becoming teachers in a school of delinquents. Another has Hyatt captured by criminals that the city defense force are trying to track down under the tutelage of a female detective that's never seen again. After another filler recap episode, the story begins again in full swing with the introduction of the barely punctual inventor Dr. Shioji, who happens to be a massive lolicon, and his creations, the Ropponmatsu units. The first beautiful, emotionless Ropponmatsu, whom the neighbor Iwata adores, is put to the test as a bomb disposal device when the agents pull Ted Kaczynski. Contrary to expectations, the bomb covered in Hyatt's blood explodes, destroying Ropponmatsu 1, but the tragedy of her death is immediately forgotten by Ropponmatsu Unit 2 being launched in her place. Although certainly more energetic, she lacks the charm of the first unit and is disliked by her co-workers that she tries to suck up to. She too is tested when the agents bring yet another bomb into the city, this time ingeniously disguised as a panda. After failing to stop the bomb in mutual combat while the countdown ticks closer to their doom, Ropponmatsu 1 returns, new and improved, and saves the day. No, actually the bomb still detonates and destroys the city. But don't worry, somehow, within the same episode, everything is back to normal, and the city defense squad are blessed with the presence of both units going into the future. That's enough bombs for now. The next episode has a suspicious package, but it's not the kind that comes with the manifesto. Inside the boxes are the vessels for both Ropponmatsu units, who upon awakening immediately become infatuated with agents Excel and Hyatt as would a baby bird. As they room together in their tiny apartment, it's shown how the personalities of the two duos mirror each other, infuriating Excel and causing no end to trouble as the robots attempt to please their new masters. In order to protect the agents, both Ropponmatsu sacrifice themselves, only to be shown alive as though nothing happened. I think I'm beginning to see a pattern. Yet in the next episode we see two plotlines converge as the agents meet Pedro's son, whom they free from the exploitation of an American mafia determined to create knockoff anime for foreign markets in the outdated Cell style. There's some early frames from the 2-episode spin-off Puni Puni Poimi shown as Easter eggs. On that note, Poimi is its own wild ride. It feels like I accidentally left VLC Media Player, or I mean my officially licensed Blu-ray edition that I purchased legally on 2x speed. It rivals the final episode of Excel Saga in terms of chaos, and has its own unique cast of characters who fight to save the world from aliens who... I don't know if I can show that on YouTube. Apparently I can, because there's a clip of it, but... Moving on. After recent disasters, the city council has grown desperate. They rely upon Kabapu and his new team of 6 off-round Power Rangers to fix society, a goal not dissimilar to that of Across. Unsurprisingly, this leads to more explosions. After another filler episode and a second recap focusing on Pedro's saga, things are ramping up towards a conclusion, at least after a rock-themed episode featuring a borderline exhibitionist rock star sent from whoever Il Palazzo serves. Some fan service for the 0.001% female audience watching. Spurred on by his anger towards this rocker key, Il Palazzo orders a galactic war ripped straight out of the book of Space Battleship Yamato and Mobile Suit Gundam, while wisely deciding to leave Excel out of the mission for once. This displays his growing dissatisfaction towards both her work and personality, which only escalates later on. Will Hyatt be up to the task on her own? The City Defense Force mobilizes to save the city and the world, and a space battle of epic proportions ensues that leads to F-City's destruction. Yet again, only this time it's permanent. The new world is effectively Mad Max, but good. Well, while true it's actually referencing the Fist of the North Star, same thing really. Using her heavy hands, Excel searches the wasteland for Il Palazzo, her unrequited love, and is stopped by raiders in the process who are shown to be working for Across, curiously. However, rather than Kenshiro's famous finishing move, Excel's fists have the power of transforming her enemies into a disgusting parody of DG Charat. As a reward for her victory in battle, Excel dines with the survivors she saved in their humble village, while Hyatt works out the logistics of Across's domination of the city's remains, and Pedro and Nabashin join their afros together to defeat their common foe. The raiders attack again, and Excel thwarts them once more, this time the result of her terrible fist being a transformation into a gross, Care Bear-like creature. And finally, Excel has revealed the truth about Il Palazzo's abandonment of her, yet she refuses to accept it. Desperate, she seeks out an audience with him, and for her faith is rewarded with a bullet through the chest. I can't believe she's actually dead. I figured bullets wouldn't work on her. There she lies in the desert, her last words frailly calling out to her betrayer as a single tear falls. No, of course she didn't die, but she does lose her memories from shock and probably brain damage from lack of oxygen. Yet in that moment, when her life's at risk, we received rare insight into her non-hyperactive thoughts as she recalls being hit by Truck-kun on her way to school in the first episode, and Il Palazzo, who initially believed in her abilities as an agent of Across. As she's being rescued by the City Defense Force, Il Palazzo is revealed to be possessed by a spirit desiring ultimate conquest. How much it influenced his decisions, however, is difficult to measure. The Lolicon doctor announces that Across has fully conquered the city, and the remaining citizens are ushered into the main ship, in which Hyatt oversees a communist bread line. A green goy slurp line, while promising their new servitude under Across, with the sight of Hyatt's corpse-like condition on the television stirring Excel's repressed memories. The City Defense Force summon their resolve as Excel battles internally. Kabapu, by the way, is looking much worse after enduring a direct hit of the descending spaceship that destroyed the city. It's time for the final battle, using the Force's power suits and the 2 doctors controlling a mech. Failing to immediately defeat them, Il Palazzo is tormented by the dark spirit of conquest and shows a hint of regret for his actions. Breaking up this uncommon moment of genuine introspection are the usual clowns playing Dragon Ball. Once infiltrated, Excel's inside too, the City Defense Force pull out their last card from reserve, activating every Ropponmatsu available to fill the screen with a sea of purple-haired stoic anime women.
Time for the climactic fight scene! Ropponmatsu Squad Group, attack!
Yet they are no match for the mastermind behind the organization. It seems the 2 old acquaintances must duke it out themselves, leading to Kabapu's obvious defeat, before switching to Pedro as he is surrounded by the glowing spirits of side characters who received brief screen time in previous episodes, resolving their struggle permanently so the episode can continue without further interruptions. This allows for Excel to return to her old self in center stage and set Il Palazzo straight, literally punching his intangible Jungian shadow into submission. The episode ends with Excel falling down her usual hole, but now she is joined by Il Palazzo, who escapes with her, perhaps having achieved mutual understanding. A fine conclusion, yet the anime doesn't end there. Episode 26, the final episode, contains content that couldn't be aired on television. It was reserved for the disc anyway, and has a lot that can't be shown on YouTube either. It begins with a musical number by the characters. Nothing too unusual, only for the opening to play, something is off. There's certainly a lot more blood than usual for starters, and Excel and Hyatt are naked as they sing, thankfully blurred, which I'll probably have to blur further to be acceptable. There's a few other differences as well. The main portion of the episode begins with more visual gags than usual, and we are reintroduced to Cosette you might remember from earlier. As for what happens, that's up to you if you want to do your own research. It ends with a sea of Hyatt's blood enveloping the Earth, visually similar to the third impact of Evangelion, and a dramatic wedding scene turned battle between director and mangaka. Oh, and the ending song now has a woman chained up rather than Menchi. Pretty normal, really. That covers it. What do you think? I was planning on delving into the themes, symbolism, etc. before sharing what I think, but that doesn't need a ton of coverage. Excel Saga's main message can be best expressed through its opening, singing about unreciprocated love and loyalty and enduring in spite of that. We see a similar message in the trials Pedro goes through. There's also the theme of searching for one's identity, and imprinting that meaning on the first source in sight, as both Excel and Hyatt cling to Il Palazzo despite having no real interest in his ideology, because he gave them a purpose in their uniquely challenged lives. Would I recommend the show? Absolutely, but perhaps with a caveat or two. There's a lot that will go over the average anime enjoyer's head. Some references were certainly lost on me at least, leaving you confused and missing a joke. Also, you might not be as interested in borderline ADHD brain rot. Understandable. With that said, my rating is 9 out of 10. Paired with Puni Puni Poeme, the spin-off, it has earned a place among some of my favorite anime. If you've watched it, feel free to do battle in the comment section stating your own thoughts about it or anything that I missed. I hope you enjoyed this video and will consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already. It took a lot longer to make than expected. I plan on continuing producing this format of video in the future and I'm already working on my next project. Thank you for watching to the end. I will see you next time.